George C. Fraser is a gentleman who has always had a vision to be driven to make a difference in life.
Dr. Fraser is a mentor's mentor. He's a coach's coach. He's a champion's champion. In my humble opinion, he is literally just an ambassador of excellence for African American people.
Let me begin with the passage that I utilized yesterday as we begin the next 3-day journey. Deuteronomy's 30:11. Deuteronomy's 30:11. For this commandment which I command you today is not too difficult for you, nor is it out of reach.
You know, I would describe George as an early visionary. He is an individual that, in the beginning, I guess, he knew there was a dream and a vision that was within him, and men can birth their dream too. And so he's a visionary that allows his dream and his visions to come to pass, and he has a hunger for his people.
George is fiercely committed to creating paths and new possibilities for business people, for entrepreneurs in general, and especially for African Americans.
George Fraser, I would describe as first a longtime friend. I've known George since I was 19 and I was 20 and George was 18. So George and I have been friends forever. George, as he's told his story a little bit today, he was a foster child. And George and his sister aged out of foster care in New York. And he came to Cleveland as an 18 or 19-year-old to avoid being in New York and not having much hope that he would find positive things to do. So he came to visit a sister of his in Cleveland just to escape that.
Let me make one thing perfectly clear. Yes, I am black. I have been black. I want to be black. I believe black is beautiful, and I have DNA proof that I am black. And for those of you that were here last year, you know that on my mother's side, I'm a Cameroonian brother, all right? So, in light of the recent controversy with the Spokane NAACP, don't be looking at me and my sister, who looks whiter than me, all cockeyed and funny during this conference, because we're from Brooklyn, yes, and we just might cut you, all right? See, now that's really black, isn't it? Anytime you're talking about cutting somebody, that's a black thing.
Well, I would describe Dr. Fraser as the preeminent and most critical person for black empowerment of our time.
I always say there are people in life who are lifters and leaners, and he's a person who's always had a passion to lift people up, to give them hope, to give them inspiration, but more than that, to give them methods and techniques that will allow them to live a more expanded life. It's been his passion, it's been his drive, it's who he is. I've known him for over 40 years, and he's never wavered. He's always been consistent, and this has always been something, as much as he has chosen it, it has chosen him. It has driven his life.
He's a visionary, and he's part militant in a way, but not in a negative way, because George and I have known each other now for about 17 years. And the thing that impresses me so much about him is that he just wants to help black people by being able to give them access to the resources and the support they need so that they can truly live a better life. And a lot of people may say that, but they don't really have the machinery. They don't have the mechanisms in place. They don't have the levers and dials that someone can put their hands on to literally make that happen. And that's what George has done consistently over the years.
God send people into our lives by way of others. And George Fraser, he and I, when I first met him, we had kindred spirits, and we hit it off right away. And that's because when you have a mission that God has sent you on, you meet others on that same mission in order to collaborate and serve God's purpose. So I look at George as being someone who God has called, and I'm inspired by that to do the work of God's work. He sent both of us. So he's an amazing man. He is truly made in the image of God. And like I said, it's not a physical image, it's an image of creativity.
I would describe Dr. Fraser as magnetic. I would describe him as driven. I would describe him as successful. And I would describe him as inspiring.
I know him as a friend, I know him as a mentor, I know him as a confidant, but what he is to me most of all is someone who connects people, ideas, and thoughts together really for the good of all of us. And so personally, I have a 3-book deal with Penguin Press because of George Fraser and his networking and his ability to connect me with the right people. And so he's a connector, that's how I define George.
He's a champion. He's a modern day, just a radical Marcus Garvey, just a radical Harriet Tubman, a radical Dr. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X for our generation. He's just a radical symbol of what it means to be excellent in the African American community, what it means to be articulate in the African American community, what it means to do business at a high level, to collaborate, to partner. And he creates opportunities for people of color to build and grow and to connect and to create opportunities where we can expand our businesses and expand our awareness of ourselves and understand how world events and life events impact our community and what we're going to do about it.
George is the most important voice for world change in the world. So the model that's failed is competition and competitive capitalism. Competitive capitalism leads to corruption and class discrimination. And George stands for 40 years for full partnership and for celebrating all diversity, not punishing it. And getting that mindset in all of us to change so that we really allow full partnership.